Hey guys, so today we're going to be working on a 2022 F350. This is the Powerstroke. This is my truck here in the background. Primarily use it for overlanding and a little bit of towing with a fifth wheel. Looking for something a little with more bite, specifically for overlanding. So decided to do some research and going with the Powerstop Extreme Z36. So this is inclusive of the pads, which is front and rear. Sorry, just got to pick them up, front and rear. And then it's got some little slider pin booties in case you got to replace them. I don't know if I'll need to replace them just because my truck only has about 20,000 miles on it, but we'll see once we get in there. And then just because they're very large in nature, you've got your cross, what do they call it? Drilled and slotted rotors. So front and rear, and let me tell you, they are not small, guys. Obviously everything on the Super Duty is fairly big, so going to get into the install, show some how to do the replacement, not only for the rotors, but also for the brake pads itself. And then we'll go from there. All right, let's do it. All right, guys, so for the front brakes, the only tools you're going to need is you'll need a 16 millimeter for the brake caliper bolts. I'm sorry, that's this guy right here. 16 millimeter for the brake caliper bolts. You'll need whatever you use to get off your lug nuts. Generally, it's a 19 millimeter. That's what I have. And then for the brake caliper bracket, you'll need a 21 millimeter. So it's basically those two, plus whatever you get your lug nuts off with. And then I use a mallet. Sometimes the brake rotor is pretty well on there, so the mallet just helps pull that off. You'll obviously need the applicable wrenches to go with those, and then a torque wrench. So for the 21 millimeters, it's 203 foot-pounds, and then for the 16 millimeters, it's 55 foot-pounds. But in terms of everything you need for the front rotors and brake caliper install, that's pretty much it. And then I just use the brake lubricant, which you'll see throughout the video. Okay, so once you get the wheel off, this is what it looks like. You've got your rotor right here, you've got your brake caliper right here, and then this is the brake caliper bracket. So if you're just replacing your pads, you would just need to take off your brake caliper itself. The way that the brake caliper is held on is this guy right here. You can see there's one bolt here and there's one bolt right here. That guy is held in with those two bolts, which are 16 millimeters. There, 1, 2. So that's how you replace your pads. But we got to take off the brake caliper bracket, and that has 21 millimeter bolts, which is one right here, and then there's another one right down here. So that's what we're going to be getting after. Another little tip is you're going to have to depress the pistons back into the actual brake caliper itself. And if you can, get in here and put this guy right in between your brake pad and the caliper and slide it over. It'll organically depress the pistons. So just to give you little gaps, that way it comes off a little easier. So you can see that those are now moving. So see how that moves? So it'll be a lot easier to pull off. So once you get your pads out of your caliper bracket, you can see these little metallic clips in all four corners. The new ones come with replacements, so might as well replace them. Just make sure the orientation is correctly. You can kind of look at certain elements of the clips. You can see this ear comes outboard of the bracket itself, and you can see that matches there. So just lay them out accordingly, so that way they're all in the same configuration, and then just replace them. Now you just do everything in reverse order. Some guys like to put anti-seize in between the parting plane and the back here. You just get a little bit of anti-seize, and you just coat it on the interfacing surface between the rotor and the hub. It should prevent that in the future. So just put a nice little thin coat all the way around and then throw it back on. Alright guys, this is what it looks like after. You can see I got the brake rotor slotted and drilled on. You got the new brake pads. You can probably see I got pretty fortunate in terms of compressing the pistons, that I didn't actually have to use any special tools. Sometimes you don't get that lucky. A lot of times you have to compress both those pistons, and there's different ways to do it. But anyways, you can see I put it on and just got the pistons to slip over the pads and then use some leverage to actually depress them all the way. You can see in the video I put some brake grease where the ears contact the actual metal clips within the caliper bracket itself. But anyways, long story short, that's everything. You can see I did have the torque wrench out. So for the caliper bracket, it's 200 foot-pounds. I think it's actually 203 exactly is the foot-pounds for those two bolts. And then for the actual brake pad caliper, the smaller 16 millimeter ones, that was the 21, by the way, 203 foot-pounds for 21 millimeter bolt. The 16 millimeter bolt, that's 55 foot-pounds. So I torqued those as well. So anyways, that concludes this, and we'll throw the tire back on and go do the other side. All right guys, so that's the front, and just so you guys know, put the wheel back on. If you saw me torquing these, I torqued them down to about 165 foot-pounds for all of the lugs, and that does it for the front. And now we'll move on to the back. Okay, so got the rear wheels off. Fairly similar to the front in terms of the same process. The only difference is, so your caliper bolts are the same. Those are 16 millimeters. The brake caliper bracket, this guy, does have a different size. So these are actually 24s. So you got one right here, it's a 24 millimeter. And then you'll have another one right down here. So that's the only difference between the front and the back. 24 millimeter for the brake caliper bracket, and then the 16s are on the same. So let's get after it. All right, so same thing as the front. Once you get your brake caliper bracket out, you've got the pads in here. So just pull those guys right out. They'll just pop right out. There's one, there's two. Then same thing as the front, right? You got your brand new clips. So just make sure you lay them out so that way they match the configuration of the ones that are going back in. So like I mentioned, I use these little ears in the direction they're going outboard to match that. And then I just lay them out accordingly. And then you just pop them in and out. All right, so that's everything. You got your rotor back on, new pads are in here. You can see, same thing. You just use some tactful leverage to get the pistons to compress. The one thing to note is there's these little buttons, I don't know if you can see them, but they're extruded out of the brake pad. So when you're putting the caliper back over, the pistons need to clear those buttons or else it'll get caught. But other than that, plug and play. And that's the rears. We'll throw the wheels on.